The Wheel of Time, episodes 1 through 3. This is going to be first my kind of spoiler-free review, and then I'm going to transition into just a walkthrough of episodes 1 through 3. Nope, just episode 1. So I'll be doing a deep dive of episode 2 and 3 later on, because I realized I had way too much to say to fit all in this one video. So welcome to a walkthrough of episode 1 after a real quick spoiler-free review of episodes 1 through 3. And what I thought of them as a whole, spoiler-filled, without getting into spoilers for like books later on stuff. I will talk about some changes that aren't exactly spoiling things later on, because they already happened. But yeah, this is going to be kind of my medium level deep dive, and further on down the road I will be getting into like full implication videos that we'll get into eventually. I am going to be critical here. Just getting it out of the way, I'm feeling like a soft 7 for these first 3 episodes. There's some stuff I loved, and other elements I'm a bit critical of. Thankfully though, a lot of this is stuff that can easily be improved on now that the show has so much of the world building and hard work under its belt. But alright, let's go ahead and just start the review of The Wheel of Time. First up though, if you want to see me kind of take that criticism down a little bit, and you just want to see me like be a fan and geek out, I'm happy to say Amazon invited me on to be a part of their official after show. So go ahead and check out the Amazon Prime YouTube channel, and you should see like episode after shows drop there starting, I believe, on Tuesday. And there you can see me just geek out with amazing fans like Rhythma, Matt Hatch, and Critter, and it's gonna be a blast. But all right, let's go ahead and talk about the positives and negatives, spoiler-free, for the first 3 episodes of The Wheel of Time. Starting with the positives, I'm in love with this cast. I think they've done an absolutely stupendous job of capturing the naive innocence of the Emmonsfield Five, and the show then violated that so effectively. That's kind of the point of the beginning of The Wheel of Time. Robert Jordan is dissecting and examining trauma and loss of innocence by taking people and throwing them out into a dangerous, eventful adventure, I think is the safe way to put it. Representative of his own life, where he grew up in the country and then went off and served in Vietnam, something that had a profound impact on his writing of The Wheel of Time. Barney Harris made me bust out laughing repeatedly. Rosamund Pike's Moraine Damodred felt regal and imposing. She plays with Moraine's complex words so smoothly. Her relationship with Daniel Henney's Lan feels exactly as vibrant and real as it does in the books. They move and fight so beautifully in sync, to the point where before we, it's not even really a spoiler because it's so clearly established and shown, they have a bond, a link that goes far beyond what is normal. And Yosha's Rand. Well, if you want to know if it's accurate or not, I've seen so many people compare it to Hayden Christensen's Anakin, and I have often said that Rand is very that in personality at times, and he's nailing it. It's a better fleshed out, more afflicted internally character, and when he does kind of have that wool-headed sheepherderness bulk up within him, it really just nails the vibe from the book. Marcus Rutherford's fucking Perrin is just, yeah, he is that internal, quiet, yet so much happening here guy. I across the board am just addicted to their performances, and I'm not even touching on the 2 who felt just the most pinpoint accurate to the book for me, and that would be Zoe Robin's Nynaeve and Madeline Madden's Egwene. Just, they are them. That is just Egwene in Nynaeve. Madeline Madden is presenting that kind of innocence, intelligence, combined with some immaturity. That's the soul of Egwene. And talking about the soul of a character, Zoe Robbins, despite changing some things here and there with her origin, is just that on-guard protector. So, yeah, on that level, if you're just here to see the cast from the first book brought to life, you're probably going to be extremely happy. And I also want to give a special shout out to the guy who played Tam. That was a gorgeous monologue. Your voice is stunning. And the other thing I want to talk about looking so good is the set design and the score. This show actually looked way better than I thought it would, judging on those early trailers. As I suspected, it seemed they kind of put out unfinished product, which drives me nuts for marketing material, but I get it, okay. I played this when it came out last night on my home theater system, so now I've seen it on that IMAX screen with that amazing sound system, and at home with that home theater system. It looked and sounded great. I also want to say I've now watched this on an IMAX screen, an OLED screen, and a laptop screen, and by far the best experience with what they've done with the color grading and everything is OLED. It's like it is made to be played on that, and it looks odd on both other types of screens I saw it on, so just my personal take there. But the problem comes in here with structure and pacing. This show is trying to cram so much into these first 3 episodes that it is cancerous to, I think, a lot of people actually getting invested, because we're not taking those really needed moments to just sit with the characters. Granted, again, the performances are making up a lot for this, especially the chemistry between Rand, Matt, and Perrin. They feel like best friends who have been around each other for ages. There are so many scenes I'll talk about for the deep dive. Overall, I'm happy, but yeah, there is some structural tonal pacing problems here that I think undercut a lot of that good I was talking about. It's why, as I put on Twitter, I'm feeling a soft 7 for these first 3 episodes, with hope that now that so much ground has been covered, we can see it take off from here. And I guess the last thing I can talk about that's not really gonna be spoilers at all before I start to kind of doing this walkthrough is the Shadow Spawn. Woo! That is what I've been saying the Shadow Spawn should be, and hoping for years. So they are animalistic, they are brutes, they are vile, and it just works. The fade feels otherworldly and mysterious, partially due to that CGI effect I was talking about, and the blending of practical with CG on the Trollocs is mostly very, very good. And I guess this is also fine to talk about. The way the Trollocs fight, I also really, really like. They have this very brute, blunt force attack to them that once you put up a resistance, there is like, okay, yeah, you have a chance. But if you are running, if you are fleeing, which they depend on, they are predators, they are animals, then you're screwed. And that's what I think that was just clearly conveyed in every scene they were in, so well done. All right, let's go ahead and begin the walkthrough, though. This is going to be spoiler-filled for the first 3 episodes of The Wheel of Time. I'm not going to get anything in the books besides for some small changes that have already been covered by these episodes, so they're not spoilers. Let's go ahead and talk about it. This show opens with one of the worst cold opens I've seen in a long time, and I think it was completely unnecessary. This sequence with the Red Sisters was not great looking. It put a pit in my stomach and made me think, oh no, this is gonna be bad. Luckily, the show just rockets uphill from there, but totally unnecessary. And there's even another cold open from episode 3, I believe, where we see Logain that I think would have served so much better as a setup and engagement for the audience to bring in and be that cold open for episode 1. Even just cutting to like the screams in the canyon and then transitioning up to Moraine would have been better, having some of that mystery, having some of that, like, you know, nuance of what's going on here could have been really neat. But those Red Sisters chasing, it didn't make sense, it looked odd, and it was poorly conveyed. There is a little bit of thematic redundancy that drove me nuts as well, because we then cut from this where we show women are in power. We have a woman monologuing about women touching the power, being better than men, and then we go to a women's circle meeting where Egwene's being risen into the women's circle and into adulthood. Great, I like that, but thematically it felt so redundant to be like, yes, women are in power. Here are some women in power. I think this would have been more effective without that. Though I do get the juxtaposition of evil women in power and just kind of a wholesome, sweet little village vibe. It just didn't work for me. I did like the sequence where Zoe Robbins pushes Madeline Madden into the river and all the things she goes through there. I thought it was, in my head, I just immediately mentally was like, what if? Don't worry, Queen. You've got this. Oh, rocks. Go. You know. And then we get back to the 2 rivers and we get to meet our trio, Rand, Matt, and Perrin. And the chemistry between them is immediately exploding. These 3 work so well, and I love it. Barney especially is given a level of nuance and care as a character that goes far beyond what he's actually allowed in reality in book 1 of The Eye of the World. Matt Cawthon is notoriously underdeveloped for the first 3 books, and what they've done, even just the first couple of scenes with him, goes far beyond what those books do for Matt for a while. So that's one of the things where I think the show actually improved. And then we get to see Perrin already has a wife. We'll get into that a lot more in a second. And Rand is just nailing that super innocent country kid vibe to a T. We see the relationship and crush between him and Egwene. There's already been this sequence where Rand's coming down the mountain with his father Tam. They cut something from the books there that I get, but they hint at it. It's odd. And we have a really nice setup for berries between Rand and Egwene, but Moraine shows up. And this scene is clunky.
Hello, I would like a room, please.
That will be no problem, Aes Sedai. I don't know if it's the direction, the editing, what, but it just came through very clunky to me. It was another point where the show kind of dipped, but fortunately it picks back up when we see Moiraine and Lan together just alone. And this goes to speak to the chemistry of the cast that just always seems to make up for a lot of the places where the show is lacking, because there is no sexual tension between Lan and Moiraine. They are just warder and Aes Sedai, but they're bathing together and they just have chemistry. Lan's able to shine as a person without betraying who Lan is at his core. I was afraid Lan would just be always stone-faced and feel like an inhuman robot Terminator, because that's like the lesser evaluation of him as a character. But no, we see Lan is a human being who has emotions. He's just highly on guard always. Like, while he was in the bathtub, I feel like if someone had kicked down the door, he would have gone from naked in the bathtub to killing them in 3 seconds flat. And Moiraine just regal to her core, as she should be. We also see that Rand and Egwene are having sex. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, which I appreciate. This cast seems old and mature enough that it would be very weird that if, like in the books, they were like, oh, we should maybe do a kiss. Like, no, they look like they're in their 20s. So yeah, they'd be banging. And this isn't medieval Europe. It's post-apocalyptic Earth. Lore details there for Wheel of Time. So it makes sense to me that, yeah, those values of like super conservatism are not on display, and instead we get like a more Renaissance vibe through and through, which is the Wheel of Time. And then there's the conflict between Rand and Egwene that's set up, where she's going on to accept being Nynaeve's apprentice, and this is also kind of presented differently than in the books, but it doesn't seem to be super crucial to the point where the show even kind of says, like, that's not relevant anymore. But the fact that it's not relevant becomes a point of conflict between Rand and Egwene, which I thought was nice writing for the betrayal of him not just letting it go, because they do show later on she's chosen to not marry Rand, and Rand is accepting and appreciative of that. I like showing Rand as a mature enough person to be like, this is the future you want. I respect that about you, while still being hurt, but he doesn't just forget she made that decision. That's good, consistent writing there. I really like that through line, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We have a lot of Moiraine kind of investigating, a showdown between her and Nynaeve, which is when I really fell in love with Zoe Robin's portrayal of this character, because it's one of my favorite things to see in acting. Two really strong characters in terms of personality, both not willing to back down. And Nynaeve's interpretation of Moraine's words versus us, the viewer, and Moiraine knowing what she's actually trying to find out, worked across the board. Yep. But before I go into Winter's Night, I need to talk about Barney Harris, his parents, and the sisters, because this is when I just went, oh my god, this is a multiple times better version of Matt than we get in The Eye of the World. And it's because of some changes that might anger some fans, but I, upon rewatching, because I've been through this a couple times now, really think is genius. Making his parents suck allows Matt to show who we knew he is in hindsight once you get into later books, but now we can see fully on display here. And that is someone who, yes, is going to take care of his sisters no matter what. And he's got flaws. He's morally gray. We see him stealing and selling to Pod and Fane, but he's doing it to try and get lanterns for his sisters for Winter's Night. Like, that's... oh my god, that's so sweet. And we see Perrin and Rand also trying to give him money, which puts him in this awkward spot of like, I have to accept this. And I hate that I do, because I've already got them, because I sold the Pod on Fane. And talk about a performance, man. The Pod on Fane performance. Oh my god. This grin, this sinister that you get. Wow. Oh, that's Pod on Fane to a T, and I'm so excited to see more of it. I gotta skip ahead of some stuff I want to talk about, because I just want to talk about Winter's Night. I can see how people not knowing what's coming getting into this, it could feel like too much of a tonal shift. I could see that criticism, because we go from this overwhelmingly wholesome Shire to just a brutal attack. And yeah, we knew the Trollocs were coming because we've seen the Fade, we've seen the Trollocs, like, you know, coming in, and we've been hinting at it, and Lan discovers that feeding circle that's in the shape of a dragon's fang. Just that goes to the quick side note. The level of detail this show is just putting in here for small references that book fans will pick up on, and I'm sure people on Rewatch will pick up on. Wow, it's like almost getting into the ballpark of Robert Jordan's foreshadowing, which is an impressive feat. But Winter's Night occurs, everyone's dancing, it's uber wholesome. And then we just slaughter. There's no other way to put it. It was an effective use of shaky cam. I like that it takes time for us to slowly finally see a Trolloc really clearly for a long shot, because we're now in that headspace of just freaking out adrenaline with the crowd. We just see blood and gore everywhere. Nynaeve and Egwene absolutely embody their characters, already trying to help and heal people. Perrin is trying to protect and bring people into his forge, which we don't get his mentor forge figures, but that's all right, I get it. And he and his wife are now fighting Trollocs as well. We get Rand and Tam and their kind of cabin, which this has changed a little bit in terms of something cut from the books, but otherwise it's pretty darn true. Actually, two things are cut. Narg, not smart here. Too bad. And this is where I really saw that, like, Trollocs are brutes, but as soon as you fight and you have any skill, you could overcome them despite how strong and big they are. We see that with Tam. He fights like a blade master who has not picked up his blade in 20 years. Yes, the fact that they put that level of detail in there where he's slow, he's rusty, but there is technique that is flying about is just... That's my Tam. And then we cut back to, obviously, Winter's Night, where we see just death and destruction, brutalization. It is that violation that Winter's Night is supposed to be. And that is so clearly on display with the change to Perrin's character. He has a wife, and he brutally kills her on accident, where she is vomiting up blood in his hands as he is traumatized looking down on her after accidentally killing her on a swing where he thought he was going at a Trolloc, and just... I actually got a little emotional in that scene. Granted, it is fridging a woman, which if you don't know what that is, something that's done in fiction a lot to progress a man's plot, but it's done really, really well, and it's going to serve the themes and ideas and development of Perrin's character so well that I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. It sucks because it's that trope and cliche, but it's really effectively utilized, so I'm like, Nynaeve is just yeeted out of there, where a Trolloc just picks her up. Bye. And we get our nice little Two Rivers moment that comes across corny, where the Two Rivers folk band together and start fighting back. Great. It's corny, but the Wheel of Time is corny at times. So it's like, yeah, that fits. It felt a little jarring in the madness of that night. But let's talk about that long shot one take with Barney Harris. Probably my favorite shot sequence of all 3 episodes. It's just this chaotic nightmare of him desperately trying to find his sisters because his parents are pieces of shit. And oh my heart, I was just tense, I was tight, it was so good. I have rewatched that scene on my OLED again and again, and the choreography for everything happening, holy shit. But let's get into the most impressive choreography maybe I've seen this year on television, and that's going to be the balance of Lan and Moiraine taking out an army of Trollocs. Yes, they are bonded. And Lan is supposed to kind of have this innate intuition on what Moiraine is doing. And if you rewatch this sequence, they accomplish that just in ways I didn't even think you could. Like, there is so much synchronization between them that I'm so looking forward to every combat sequence of the Aes Sedai and Warders now, because it's just beyond impressive. It was just the absolute full 100% realization of what watching a Warder and Aes Sedai fight together should be. The weaving didn't look flawless. There was definitely some wonkiness there. It was just sensational, though. We also see the utilization of Moiraine just at full strength, which it's funny because I thought, okay, to save money, they're going to weaken people who can channel a little bit because, you know, you want to avoid that. But they seem to be doing the opposite. So Moiraine is powerful. And she manages to take down this army while sustaining damage. And I immediately had this meme in my head where she's like, we saved the town, but it's like the SpongeBob meme where everything's on fire. And I was just like, you saved the town, sure. And then Winter's Night kind of comes to a close. The Trolloc attack has been repelled mostly, and we see just everyone just numb, in shock, brutalized, death everywhere. Rand walks into the town carrying Tam, and he's just like, what? Like, obviously he didn't know that it was going to be this, and that's kind of the same as the book, but the most heart-wrenching sequence is seeing Perrin, after presumably spending hours in shock looking at his dead wife, finally working up enough strength to carry her out, and seeing, you know, his friends come to help him is just holy wow. But then this final closing kind of encapsulates my problems with this first episode, where we see the speech about Manetheren is removed. It's in episode 2. Instead, we get a much more clunky leaving, where instead of Moraine like convincing the people that everyone needs to go with this incredible speech that's iconic in fantasy, she essentially just points to an army coming down the mountain and goes, hey, we need to leave or we're all gonna die. And I was like, I don't know. And no one really protests. It's just this like, all right, all 4 of you who are left, because Nynaeve got yeeted off for leaving, and you could tell it was because they didn't have the runtime. It would be a whole other thing, and they were like, no, we're out, so we got to stop. And that was part of that structural, just like, and we need to plot, and damn it, like it was so close to being that true representation of Wheel of Time, but I have to say, like, yeah, I'm feeling a soft 7, where I'm in love with so much of what I'm seeing out of 10, which seems to be the general consensus, and I'm hoping we're going to see only uphill from here. I'm going to go ahead and do a whole other video for episodes 2 and 3, because I'm realizing I have so much to say walking through these. There's no way I could do this in one video, so look forward to those coming down the road before the next episodes drop. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. Let me know what you thought of episode 1 of The Wheel of Time in the comments down below. Just spoiler for the next video for me. I like episode 2 more than 1, and 3 I think has the best plot line and the weakest plot line. So we'll get into that once I actually get those videos out to you. All right, bye! And of course I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high tier patrons, Susan Scott, Christopher Ryan, and Sai. You guys got in the Wheel of Time video. Congratulations.